This podcast provides a platform for our guests to share their experiences and inspire our listeners to be brave and bold in pursuit of their dreams. As you listen, we invite you to explore how these concepts apply to your own story. You know what to do. Be great and be grateful. We're mic'd up with Mike DeChocho. Hey guys, are you a freedom seeker or trailblazer who wants to make more money and a massive impact doing what you love while finish making that cup of coffee and get your notepad out? Because this episode is for you. My guest today helps online coaches shift their identity to become a thriving entrepreneur. She uses a unique approach, a blend of mindfulness and universal laws to empower you to live life on your terms and experience more peace, ease, authenticity, and satisfaction along the journey. Welcome to the show, Nikki Gangemi.
Thank you, Mike. I'm so happy to be here. This is going to be fun.
I'm super excited for this. We met about a month ago as we're recording this. If you guys are tuning in, this may be launching a few weeks after, obviously. We have a ton of episodes queued up, but we met at an Arete meeting, right? Ed Milet and Andy Frisella's group out in New Jersey. And that was like right at the very, very teeny bit of us knowing that there was some kind of coronavirus. It was just a whisper, right? It was a whisper. And a month later, as we record this, it seems like it's been 6 months with all the adversity in business and really the scary reality of the health situation we're going on. So how are you doing? And share with our audience, if they're not familiar with you, what you're all about. I know you have your website, mindfulmattersliving.com, and your IG is Mindful Matters LLC. Anyone could tune in. Share what that's all about.
Sure. Thanks, Mike. So Mindful Matters LLC actually came about as a children's mindfulness program because I was a teacher for 15 years in the public schools, and I saw that there was a need for kids to learn coping skills to handle their emotions, the thoughts that they were having constantly all day, just to deal with the peer pressure, bullying, and all of that. So I created the program to help them. And then I had adults coming to me saying, you know, I could really use stress management tools and these coping skills as well. So I ended up shifting out of the classroom into the online space, discovered something called coaching, which I never thought I would be doing, and fell in love with it because that's really what I love helping people to do. And it's just changing on the inside out, reprogramming your mind for the life you want to live and stepping into that better version of you. So I ended up resigning from my teaching job this past June to be fully in my business. And I really came alive again. So
wow.
That's just a little quick snippet.
Yeah, and I could tell when we met, obviously you were highly tuned in. I was doing a presentation on social media, but you were just looking for anything you could do to apply because I could tell you were on purpose in your heart and your spirit. That's why I'm excited for our listeners to tune into this conversation and doing my research on Mindful Matters as well. And you actually just teased it. You mentioned it already. So you're like rolling right through this, which is awesome. You emphasize the change that change, personal development, right, and growth is an inside-out job. Can you elaborate on that for us?
Sure, absolutely. So since I was a kid, always struggled with, I had OCD and anxiety, and what was going on in my mind was just so uncomfortable. It was just constant negative thoughts just on repeat. And I was just always highly anxious because of the negative thoughts, and I didn't know what to do with that. So I was in therapy collectively for about 15 years, learned different skills along the way. But there was one therapist that I saw, and she introduced me to mindfulness. And that's where I finally learned how to slow down those thoughts that were like rapid fire going in my mind. And I could breathe for the first time. I was able to create space in between those obsessive thoughts. And it was like instant calm. And I said, wow, this is what it feels like to breathe. So I became obsessed in another way almost. And I was just, getting into more of the meditating, journaling, and yoga, emotional freedom technique. And
Mhm.
I was able to not have to be on medication. Because at one point I was given anti-anxiety medication and I did not like the way it made me feel. I said, there
Right.
has to be an alternative way. And so once I learned that, I really changed at the
Mhm.
identity level. I'm not the person who I was 20, 25 years ago.
Right. So if you can give some, and that's great. I mean, that I love to hear that too. I'm very net when it comes to medicinal, practices or to help somebody in through therapy. Look, I'm not on here trying to claim that I have the answers, and I don't want to tell you don't listen to your doctor, but I do believe like if you can seek out and do something healthy first, mentally, maybe some physical activity, obviously that can help anxiety. Ed talks about when you're in a high state of physical activity, you can't even be thinking really like negative thoughts because your body is just so focused and present. So I think things like that, mindfulness, meditation, seeking it out, getting help, having someone coach you through it so you know exactly what you're doing. Because it could be discouraging. I'll even speak for myself. When I tried meditating the first dozen times, it was very discouraging because I had a really hard time silencing my mind because, like you mentioned, there's a million thoughts always going. And then I'm starting to focus on the fact that I can't focus. So, walk us through some simple tips. It doesn't have to be, highly detailed or anything. They can check that out at your website, mindfulmattersliving.com. But if you can give someone like 2, 3 things that they can add to their daily lifestyle,
Sure.
their
Yeah.
routine, what would that look like?
So I like to keep things simple because I feel that that's really what people want. They want
Mhm.
simplicity. If we have to add things to our day, we're likely not going to do them. So like you brought up meditating and how
Mhm.
some people will try it and then just kind of give up because it's if you haven't done so before, it is could be challenging to just sit in quiet. So there's so many different kinds of meditation. So what I like to do is for somebody who maybe has a hard time quieting their mind, you can make anything a meditation. You can make making your cup of coffee in the morning a meditation. And I say start right there. And
Mhm.
it's really just being present
Mhm.
and using your senses.
Wow, I like that. Yeah.
Being in the moment. So if you're making coffee, you are making coffee. It's like I turn on the Keurig, I hear the noise that it makes, and then I start to, open up the box of coffee, take out the pods, and all of a sudden you get the smell. And it's like,
Mhm.
oh, what's that flavor? It's like caramel macchiato. What's the flavor that you're having? And it's just, your sense of smell,
You're
sound.
appreciating the moment more.
You're appreciating the moment.
Something I think that's been put on a pedestal in our crazy lifestyle and culture, and I appreciate the concept of it, but it's multitasking, right? So it was like I feel like when I got into the workforce, and I'm 34, so about 10 years of really being at a higher level in the workforce, right? As a sales rep and business person and leader uh, in a sales environment, right? The key term is multitasking, right? Oh, they can get all this stuff. Well, I'll tell you what, every time you're multitasking, you're not really doing each task at the highest level of its ability. So when someone's like telling me how great they are at multitasking, I do worry a little bit that they're not really going to be spending the right amount. Like on this interview right now, I have my phone on airplane mode, so I
Mhm.
can't get any text coming in because I know if a text came in, I would not be serving you to 110% of my ability right now, and our audience would be losing out on it because they'd have a half. My mind would be half paying attention, and then they're going to get half the value that I can give. So, what are your thoughts on that? Like, clear your mind, focus, and then as an entrepreneur, we do have multiple things we need to get done. Would you just say like really just one at a time, have it planned out?
Yes, because I, like you, am easily distracted.
Mhm.
So I could be working on, let's say, my blog, and then I see my phone light up and somebody's instant messaging me, and then I want to respond to that. And then it's like, let me go over on Facebook and see if I've got to respond to anybody there. And then writing the blog could easily end up taking 3 hours when I could have Probably if I just focused on that, it could have been done in 45 minutes.
Totally.
So what I do for myself and what I recommend to others is set an intention. Sit down, and my intention is,
Hmm.
and then in my example, my intention is to write my blog in under an hour. I want to be laser focused. I want to be inspired. Another thing is I choose tasks to do that are maybe a little more challenging. For me, I like to do those first. So it's like when I have my most energy to get them out of the way, and then save some other things that are more mindless that I could do later on in the day, and commit to working in chunks of time. There's a Flat Tomato app. There's a few of them, Tomato Timer app, where you can work in 25-minute increments and then
Yeah,
take that brain break for just 5 minutes. And
totally.
it sounds counterintuitive, but you actually can get more done in less time that
Yeah.
way.
One of my mentors mentioned, and I'm gonna do this. He mentioned writing, like kind of journaling your day. Just pick one day and write down exactly what you're doing every 15 minutes. Just make a quick note, like you're still doing emails, you're on to the next thing. I'm in the middle of an interview. Maybe the interview, I would like write down 4 15-minute blocks or something if it adds to an hour, and then just look back on it. And like when you feel stressed at the end of the day, like I do multiple times a week, like, oh, I gotta get push this off, or I didn't get this task done. You can look and be like, well, look at that 15-minute block. You spent too much time on that, or you say, if this was so important, it shouldn't have happened at 9:30 at night. Try to get that up earlier and maybe move some stuff around. So I think that's great. I think anyone listening to this, whether you're an entrepreneur, business person, stay-at-home mom. Now a lot of people are stay-at-home moms during the quarantine, or dads or whoever, right? The idea of having a lot on your plate, yet being mindful to make sure you're doing those individual tasks that will add up to your ultimate goal. Something I'd love to learn more about, and it's funny, I feel like we have a lot of synergy in our thought
Yeah.
process, but also I know you live in a state of gratitude, and you're constantly talking about gratitude, and we'll talk about that as we wrap up the show. I always like to leave the show in gratitude, but we both also have something that's interesting in common as well: elementary education. So I went to Buffalo State College for elementary ed, and eventually got myself out of it because I knew it just something didn't feel right for this being something I wanted to do 30 plus years, right? I felt there were other people that could do that elementary education with 1,000% the right reasons. And I found
Yes.
myself getting into media production and going back to what I loved doing when I was 6 and 8 years old, running around with a camera and creating content. So I wonder, 15 years, it's quite a block of time, and you were doing kindergarten, first, second, and third grade. What had you start to think about entrepreneurship? Like, when did that seed get planted? When did you start to take action on it? And then, like, third, you mentioned it was this past June, so not that long ago, less than a year ago, you went full force. So, what had you kind of originally think about it? How did you take action on it? And when did you finally know, I'm going all in, baby? Going all in.
Yes. Well, let me just say that I went into teaching, and it was not a choice. It was never what I wanted to do. I wanted to act. And in my early 20s, I moved out to Los Angeles, and I pursued my acting career for a year. And then I decided to come back home, but I gave up, to be honest. I gave up on my dream. And
Are
then
you originally from the New Jersey area?
originally from New Jersey.
Cool.
Yeah. So I moved back home, and then it was like, now what do I do? I had an undergrad in communications. It was very general. Didn't know what to do with that. And a lot of my family was saying, well, become a teacher. I come from a family of teachers. There's so many of them. And I said, no, that's not what I want to do. And then eventually I said, yes, when I got tired of doing other little jobs. I'm like, okay, I'll do this. But again, you said there are reasons to go into teaching, and they've got to be the right reasons. However, why I stayed 15 years, normal things you're told. You've got to be responsible. You've got bills to pay. It's time to be an adult, and I ended up staying, and the years go very quickly. But on the inside, I was unhappy because I wasn't following what I really wanted to do.
Mhm.
Where the shift happened was I was teaching in the district that I went through as a kid. And I was bullied severely throughout middle school and high school. And I saw the same things going on all these years later. And I said, nothing is really being done to help kids with what's going on in their mind. They're not being taught how to cope and how to handle all this. And I know it had such a huge impact on my life well into my 30s. And I thought, if I can teach them what to do with what they're feeling, they could maybe have more success and sooner in their life. So that's why I put together the program where I made the shift of leaving teaching and starting my business was when I turned 40. Mm-hmm. And I looked in the mirror and I just had this thought that, I followed the rules. I did what I was told. I always wanted to, get my theater degree and be the actress. And I majored in something that, could have stability. And then I went into a job with the pension and the benefits and the 401k. But also with that certainty and stability, I was also told would come the husband and kids. And that still didn't happen either. And I said, what am I doing? Mm-hmm. This model has not been working for me. And now I'm 40. So I'm taking back my own life and I'm going to do what I want to do. And I said, I no longer value stability and certainty. It didn't get me what I wanted. What lit my fire more was authenticity, being authentic and true to myself, and freedom. And so it didn't make sense anymore to stay in this career. Mm-hmm. Even though it was rewarding. And that was a thing too, Mike, that people would, well, that's such a rewarding career. Absolutely. So is being a doctor or a surgeon doesn't mean I'm right for that. So I said, I'm going to take the leap. It made no sense on paper, but I just felt a sense of calm inside. I always pay attention to how I feel when I make decisions. Yeah. I felt excited and alive, and I felt calm at the same time, even though there was no reason to be calm about leaving a paycheck, right? Yeah. And I just made the decision and I did it. And I'm so happy that I did. I could easily think, I wish I would have done this so much earlier, but that wouldn't serve me. So I learned what I needed to.
Thank you for opening up and sharing that, and being real about it. And I think it's super important for someone to realize, and I can totally relate because I was in that exact profession, early childhood education. My moment was, I had a teacher in ninth grade who really helped me understand math, and I did well. I got a 94 on the New York State Regents exam, which leading up to it, I didn't really score higher than high 80s, maybe 70s to 80s. And so when that light bulb went off, I knew the reason that I scored so high was because of the one-on-one attention my teacher gave me. And I was 15 years old or 14 in ninth grade, right? Freshman. And I thought to myself at that age, like, why did this light bulb go off now instead of when I was like 6 years old? So I was like super driven to get into like first or second grade and like build kids up. But it's funny. You mentioned it was the mindset. I was thinking that I just didn't maybe voice it or understand it at that time when I was thinking about going into college and what I wanted to do with my life. But so I got into it to help kids out the way that I felt I was helped out, and and connect the dots, because I felt there was a lacking of it wasn't that I wasn't capable. It just was other people told me I wasn't good enough. Like whether a teacher said, you're not scoring well, or my parents just were like, he's not scoring good. So they kind of wrote off that I could get a 90 on a math exam. And then I had a teacher believe in me and speak to me in a way that I could understand. So when you say fulfillment, I totally could have went on with my teaching career and been super fulfilled and did it for the kids. And I know you just said it too. You did get that fulfillment over 15 years, but at the same time, your identity was in acting and doing mindful coaching and doing what you're doing now. So it's not really right for someone to be outside of their identity to also do something that's great with fulfillment and helping kids. That's beautiful, but you still feel you have that underlying purpose and you're doing what you're doing now. And your 40th birthday was a way for you to just have another reawakening of that gut punch, and the best way I could describe it. So I think that's really a great thing for people to hear, because they may be sitting at home right now listening to this, or in their car if the quarantine is lifted when someone's listening to this, right? And they might have that idea or that thought or that, I just wish I was doing what I want to do. Right. So if you can give some personal insight into how you got through it and finally started to take the action, is there anything that you could tell someone about like connecting the dots?
Yes. I would say sit with yourself.
Mm.
Allow yourself to just be with yourself. Get out a journal, paper, pen, and just start writing down, whatever's in your mind. And sometimes I just do like a brain dump where I just get my thoughts on paper. But allow yourself to just imagine and wonder and what is that something more, because I think we all have that, where we feel, especially if we're not doing what lights us up, that we're meant for something more, and we might not know what that is. But go there with yourself and allow yourself to imagine and pay attention to, like I said, what excites you, what lights you up, what could you talk about all day. Take your passion and your talent and you can put those together and you can turn that into a profitable business. I feel that when you follow what feels good, and that's been my mantra, I follow what feels good. I don't use my logic 100%. I use my intuition. That's a big part of it. But I feel that when you are on the right path, your right path, and you're doing what you came to this planet to do, that you will be supported, that things will work out.
Mm. Yeah.
You had another question in there. I'm not sure if I answered it now.
No, I think you did. I mean, we talked about having identity and really understanding, like you said, get clear with yourself, sit with yourself and listen, and then basically essentially follow your heart.
And I want to say one more thing. I feel, and this is something that I did, we listen so much to society. We listen to what we were taught by our families, teachers, society, and then we minimize ourselves. Like I said, with teaching, it took me a long time to publicly say that did not light me up. Mm-hmm. And it was because of because I was in public schools and it was about the curriculum and teaching to the test, and that was more important. So it wasn't that I didn't like teaching, it was the content that I was teaching. Mm-hmm. If I could just teach about emotions and how to reframe your thoughts and all day, great, keep me in the classroom. But that's not the way it was. So I want to inspire people to tune in, because that's where your courage is, the confidence, the love, the peace, everything. It's all inside you. And start honoring yourself. Mm-hmm. And I feel that that's a little bit scary, because you risk being criticized, you risk being ostracized. We want to belong, we want to fit in, and when you go against the grain, there's sometimes risks to that.
Yeah, so true. True. From my experience and from just about every entrepreneur I've spoken to has a similar story, where in the beginning they got a lot of tough love from people that they certainly care about. And it's all for the right reasons, because they do care about us and our stability as well. But that isn't also, like I said, that true on purpose feeling that in your heart, that needs to be the driver of what you're doing. Because you look at the people that a lot of people now say, oh, look, we admire these folks, right? They're the top CEOs that we think of. And Thomas Edison, well, he failed 10,000 times before the first light bulb turned on, right? And if he told someone, I'm going to create a light bulb and it's going to take me that many tries, someone might say, I think you should probably try something else, buddy, right? Like, why don't you do something that you could get on 3 tries? You're going to waste a lot of time doing 10,000 attempts. Well, guess what? He created the light bulb. Can you imagine the world without a light bulb right now? So, there's going to be times when you just need to really, like, your number one voice needs to be yourself, obviously, like believing in yourself. And then I also do believe in God, and anyone that's listening to this, that could be different. It could be the universe, but basically understanding that things don't just randomly happen by chance, right? There's a connectedness there to the universe. And I would say, call that your purpose. We're here for, everyone's unique, be the best version of you, and how you can serve the world, I think is such a great way to live. And you're doing your part.
Absolutely. Yes. I said, even now with what's going on with this virus and the quarantine, it's like now is a time, this is a reset where we have that time, right, where we can do the inner work and just get curious about what's going on the inside. And it's like, how can you come out on the other side of this as that 2.0 version of yourself? What's that next level for you?
Yeah. And during the quarantine, I think a great thing people can be thinking about is maybe learning at a minimum one new skill, one new thing, right? Is there something that you feel so far, we're about a month into this or a little less than that, that you can take away as a positive so far, like a silver lining?
Lots of silver linings, Mike. Where do I even begin? I'm going to begin with connection. I see that people, even though they might not be aware of it, they're more present. Whereas before, there was just so much of busyness and on the go and distracted. And the social distancing, this new term that's being used, I feel that started a few years ago when families would just be out, let's say at a restaurant having dinner. Physically, they were near each other, but emotionally and mentally checked out because who was on their phone and the iPad, that's still distancing in a different way. And now I feel that because people are forced to physically be apart, now there's this yearning to be more present. And you see families interacting more, having conversation. Even how are you? When people are asking you right now, how are you? They genuinely care. Before, it was just another way of saying hello. And they really weren't caring how you were doing,
Yeah.
because that was just the way it was. So that's one positive thing, the connection. And another thing is look at all the support. There's an outpouring of support, people just willing to show up, do out of the goodness of their heart, go shopping for people who are maybe older to pick up their groceries, so many things. And I'm seeing people be more patient.
I agree.
Kind,
I've witnessed
right?
that too. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I think that right there, I mean, it's going to be difficult for me to get this down to a promo, but that right there, that soundbite of again, a silver lining. Again, we don't want to see one person ever die from a virus, especially something that started the crazy way that this has. And it seems to continue to spread. At least we don't have word or it hasn't been released that there's an understanding of how it's going to end. We don't know. That's the uncertainty behind it right now. We don't have a date on when this is going to roll through. So if you can't control that, we can control our own actions. We can do our best to control our mind, as what you specialize in, but also, like you said, reconnect with family. I felt, I have limited time with my daughter, unfortunately, but I can tell you that there's time that I am spending with her. I've already been extremely mindful to be present with her, but now it's like, I turned into a 5-year-old kid to play with my 5-year-old daughter the times I have her now, because it's like, focusing on getting back to what it's all about, connection.
Exactly.
You're right about the families. Like that was a really big problem for me, is seeing how people were super tuned out with each other, even though they were physically present. And now they're physically present because they're either trapped at home or they're separated in a sense from like their second layer of family, right? Like their cousins and their friends and people they were seeing in person, that they're losing that touch. And now they're reaching back out. I think that's fantastic insight, and reflection on what's going on right now. I have a few more questions and then we do need to wrap up. If you can be known for one thing, what would you want that to be?
Well, the first word that popped into my head is mindfulness. Just becoming only, I'll tell you why, Mike. That was really my way out. That was my path away from anxiety. It's slowing down those thoughts. And it was because I learned how to get present. So I would say mindset and
Mindfulness. I think of Nikki and it's like, she's just going to help clear my mind and get me on the right path and be thinking about the right things.
Exactly.
So let's summarize. Basically, you dropped a lot of wisdom on us, and I really appreciate you doing that. And thank you for your time being here and doing this. I know you're doing a lot of you're doing some I don't know if is it free courses or just free time, like one-on-one coaching to help people through the
Not
pandemic?
one-on-one coaching. I've been offering a lot of free where I'll hop on a Zoom and I'll open it up to people and we'll do some tapping, emotional freedom technique, tapping on anxiety. I created a calm method to help 4 steps to help people get to a place of calm. So I wanted to show up and we're hearing a lot the hashtag lead with love. And that's really been what I've been looking to do. And I did a 14 days of gratitude on my Facebook business page. So in that sense, I've been showing up and just serving.
Yeah. I noticed that. So I wanted to commend you on it. I know you're not doing it for recognition. You're doing it from your heart, leading with love, literally leading with love. So if we could summarize everything you talked about here and maybe even add something new into the mix. My goal and my mission for the show is to inspire our listeners to be brave and bold in pursuit of their dreams. If you can tie one message to that, what would it be?
You said it perfectly, Mike. I love that. If I were to add, and I don't even know if this is adding or just kind of like an extension of what you said, but be self-full.
Mm-hmm.
For a long time, I thought it was selfish to do what I wanted to do. And now I'm learning that you show up so much better for your spouse, your family, your kids, when you're happy. You've got to be happy first. And whatever that looks like for you and whatever you need to do to get there, it's not selfish. It's self-full. When you fill yourself up, and this is so cliche, but when you fill yourself up, you can then give from the overflow.
I've never heard anybody say that, the term be self-full. I'm over here. I got this huge smile on my face. I totally get it. Like for you to give your best for someone, you have to be your best mentally, physically, the whole thing. You just got to be your best being. And then you can go out and serve. It starts with your first line of family and then your second line of friends and family. And then your third, your clients and the stranger at the store, again, once we can get out and
Yes.
It's so weird to just think about small interactions that are like put on hold right now. Right. But be self-full. I love that. Absolutely love that. I love that you leave, by giving love, right? As you just mentioned, and also live in a state of gratitude. So let's wrap up the show with 3 things you're most grateful for.
3 things. Only 3? Okay. I'm grateful for, I'm going to clump one into connection, even just this interview. I'm grateful that we have these platforms where even though we might be stuck in our homes, we can still connect with people and have these kinds of conversations. So that's one, connection. I am grateful for support. I see so much support, and I have to say I'm shocked and taken aback by the outpouring of support on every level, just friends, family, even our government, all the support with forgiveness, loan forgiveness and all this and opportunity to get money to help you right now. I think that is amazing. So support, that's 2. And 3, I'm going to say health. I'm grateful for health, and that's mental health and well-being. And also physical health.
Yeah. If we don't have that, it's really, that just kind of gets us into the game, having our healthy mind and being, and it's crazy. It always crushes my heart the most when you see someone with compromised health, and especially if it's not anything they did to deserve it. It could be a baby that was just born or a child or someone that just it has less than advantageous health. So yeah, gratitude, being healthy, seeing the support system from friends, family, governments, businesses. I agree. I didn't even think about that. And I'm glad that you mentioned that, being mindful of it, of how big corporations, what this pandemic really is doing? It's showing people's true character. And I think adversity does that in someone, like if you really throw a lot at someone, how do they handle it? Right? Do they throw their hands up in defeat? There are some business people that have been flaunting that they got cash flow and they got this and they got the Ferrari and the plane and the personal jet. And 3 days into the quarantine, when they have employees that need to work from home and everything, they're already firing and laying off people instantaneously. And that crushed me. I know it was one of the people I'm talking about was someone I really followed and listened to their almost every move for wisdom and advice. And then they just like bailed on their team like immediately. And then there's companies that are like, look, we'll give you 60 days before we hit you with a late fee. And there's another company, forget who I just read about. It was a big name company too. And they just said, we're not laying off or firing anybody. We're actually, I know Wegmans, it's a grocery store here in Western and upstate New York, and they're sprinkled throughout the East Coast.
Too, yeah.
Is that Wegmans? Yeah. And I believe they're actually increasing the minimum or their wages for their employees, knowing that they're going to work every day in less than advantageous conditions. I think that's fantastic. It shows your character. A lot of character being built right now. People are getting real with themselves as entrepreneurs. So, Nikki, thank you so much for your time. I could talk about this all day. I know our listeners completely benefited from you. They can check it out at mindfulmattersliving.com. Any last words before we head out?
Proceed as if success is inevitable.
Oh, I love that.
Yeah. I love that because it's just like I said, when I quit my job, I lived that. Like I said, it made no sense on paper, but I proceeded as if success were inevitable because it is. And it's really about believing. It's believing 100%, like when you are on purpose and you're on your path, that you will be supported. So dream big, live big and bold.
You gotta win up here first, right?
That's right.
Win in here, and then you physically go do it. So I'll tell you what, I believe in you. The word believe is right behind you there. I love it. And I'm really excited to see. I believe that the sky is the limit for you and your clients. So thank you so much for being here today.
Thank you, Mike. Thank you so much for having me. This was awesome.
Hey guys, super excited to announce that Mike's Warriors LLS fundraiser is now live. The button is active on Facebook. You'll see that when I'm posting that you'll be able to click on the donate now button. It's also active on my website as well. So if you guys are able to do that, I want to thank you ahead of time for participating and helping out a greater cause. I do want to be mindful, obviously, through coronavirus. Some of us have been compromised in our health. We have a family member or friend that we know that's battling through that right now. Some of us have either lost our jobs or have been working in conditions that we're not used to. So maybe we lost clients due to this because they had to close their doors. Whatever it might be, I just want you to know that I am mindful of the current situation going on. And I completely respect if you're unable to donate at this time, or maybe you're hesitant to do that. All I ask in that situation, if you're not able to personally give, is if you can share this with your friends and family, literally share it through social media or just at the dinner table, talk about it. Hey, Mike's doing something for Leukemia Lymphoma Society, and you can get that information in front of more people. That right there is a tremendous help, and I'm grateful for you doing that. If you're able to give a little bit, maybe half of what you were able to do before, whatever it is, we're grateful for it. We can do this $1 at a time. We're going 10 weeks here. The kickoff call last night, there was just so much energy on it that people are overcoming some of the adversity that we're dealing with, and we're helping each other out. And I just see the energy that people have behind Leukemia and Lymphoma Society, and also myeloma as well. Did you guys know that 40% of kids that are battling cancer, it's a blood-related cancer? And of those children, right now, if they're in a hospital, they're having limitations and some not even able to see their parents. I can't even imagine being in that situation. My heart goes out to all the families that are impacted by any cancer, especially blood-related cancers right now as this campaign is live. So I'm thanking you ahead of time for donating. Anything you can do, $25, $50, $100. If it's more than that, seriously, appreciate everything that you guys are doing to help me. Again, if you donate, also share. If you're unable to donate, please share this. Extremely thankful for you listening right now, giving me your attention for a couple minutes here. I love you guys, and thank you so much for tuning in. I wanted to get that out there. Let's stay together during this hard time and use it as a time to love our families and our neighbors. Be strong and persevere. Appreciate your reviews and messages coming in on social media. Keep them coming. You guys can check out more show notes and information on each episode at mikeduppodcast.com. MIKED Up Podcast.com. We're powered by Social Chameleon. You guys know what to do. Be great and be grateful.